Hi everyone! So this week we are going to start talking about our Bible stories again. This week we're going to look back at Jesus' life before he was crucified. Now, his life was a ministry. What that means is that he did work for God's kingdom. He told people about God. He also performed miracles. He healed people, and he continued to show people who God was. And he ultimately did that when he died on the cross for our sins. And then 3 days later rose again. And that's really why we celebrate Easter. But we can celebrate that every single day, knowing that we don't have to pay for our sins or the bad things that we do. Jesus has already done that for us, and he's defeated that. He's defeated death, he's defeated the enemy, he's defeated everything that could stop us from following God. So we are so thankful for that victory in him. We're going to take a look back, like I said, at his life and his ministry this week. What we're going to do is look at a story in the book of Matthew where Jesus is introduced, or some people are introduced to Jesus that are going to become his disciples. So I'm going to read to you this story, and then we'll go back over some questions to remind ourselves of what happened in the story. So first thing, I want to go over some vocabulary words. This first word is immediately. If something is immediate, it happens at once, very quickly. The next one is mend. To mend something means to fix it or to repair it. And the last one is a disciple. A disciple is a learner or a follower. And we're going to see that Jesus had some disciples who followed him. So I'm going to read this story. One day after Jesus grew up to be a man, he was walking by the sea when he saw two brothers fishing. The two brothers were named Peter and Andrew. Jesus told Peter and Andrew to follow him, and he would teach them about God. So Peter and Andrew immediately stopped fishing and went with Jesus. As Jesus and the two brothers traveled together, they saw two more brothers. These brothers were named James and John. They were also fishermen. They were mending their nets so they could catch more fish. Jesus called to them and asked them to follow him. They also stopped mending their nets and followed Jesus. They wanted to learn more about God too. More and more, 8 more men also followed Jesus. That made 12 men who began to travel with Jesus. Some of the others were also fishermen. One man was a tax collector. Jesus loved these 12 men very much. They loved Jesus and wanted to learn all that they could about God. Jesus called these 12 men his disciples. A disciple is a follower or a learner. The disciples knew that this was the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus' disciples followed him wherever he went. They helped him. They also learned a lot from him. They wanted to learn more and more about God. They wanted to learn more from God's Son, who is Jesus. So in that story, we see that there are people who Jesus became close with. He brought them in and he taught them lots about who God was, and he let them follow him to see the ministry that he had came to earth to do. Now, I want to ask you a couple of questions that you're going to respond to on Class Dojo. The first question is, what is a disciple? What did I say a disciple was? Also, how many disciples did Jesus choose to have? There was 2 at first, then 2 more, and then eventually there was more than just 4. What did the disciples want to learn? Why did they want to follow Jesus? What did they want to learn more about? And the last one is, how can you be a disciple? So we saw that these people, they followed God. They followed Jesus to learn more about God. What does that look like for you? How could you be a disciple in your life? I'm going to leave you with one verse that I really love. It is Matthew 4:19. It says, "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." Now, these disciples, a lot of them were fishermen, but Jesus, he helped them become fishers of men, meaning that they would go out to people and they would help them, to help their hearts by bringing them closer to God and teaching them more about him. So, I'll go over those questions one more time. Number 1, what is a disciple? Number 2, how many disciples did Jesus choose? Number 3, what did the disciples want to learn? And number 4, how can you be a disciple?